Live. We are live. Mic check. Mic is good. We are live. It's a pleasure to have you on this business clinic, the business clinic for October 2024. And if this is your first time of joining us, the business clinic is the opportunity I have to address questions directly from my audience. This is a free consultation session. And the format is very simple. I typically address 5 questions on the live. How do I get these questions? I get them from the waiting room. The waiting room is a group of people who are qualified to join my business mentorship group, but are still waiting for a slot or a vacancy to get in. Right. So this past week, when we opened the chat for people to ask their questions, I people sent in their questions, and as is customary, the House voted on these questions. And based on the votes that we got, we have our top 5 questions for today's business clinic. And I'm hoping we're going to learn quite a lot from it, right? From the questions. In fact, what got my attention is the first question, the question that came tops in terms of the top 5, got 20 votes. This is the highest number of votes I've seen since we started this the business clinic, right? And I'm really looking forward to diving straight into it. So there's nobody to wait for. The agreed time is 2 p.m. GMT +1, and for anybody who has been coming to these business clinics, I start exactly on time. Even if I just have one person on the business clinic, I'm going to go ahead and start. And of course, this is recorded. You can still watch it at the end of the session, at the end of the clinic. So let me read the first question. If you can hear me well, can you just like the live so I know you can hear me properly? So for those who don't know the history, before now, I used to leave the chat open on the live, right? But I get a lot of interruptions and a lot of distractions. So by broad consensus, we agreed that the chat should be disabled so that I can be fully focused on addressing the questions. Okay, so I can see the lights are up, so it means you can hear me very well. So let's go ahead. If you have access to the waiting room, I'm reading question 1 from the top 5 questions. And this one says, good evening, coach. My name is Charles. I and my friend started a real estate company 18 months ago. And we were discussing to share the equity 50-50. My partner wasn't okay with it. He said instead we should go 45-55. So your partner wants a higher percentage than you. And of course, I asked why, and he says he knows he'll be bringing more to the table. He'll be bringing more to the business. So this goes on to say that the two of you agreed to share the company 55-45%. But when the CAC registration, the company registration in Nigeria is usually called the CAC registration. When the CAC registration came through, your partner did not give the instruction to register the company as 55-45. Instead, your partner registered the company as a 60-40, 60% to 40% split, right? You go on to say that your partner traveled to the UK to meet his family, and while he was out of the country, you went ahead to close a deal, even though your partner was involved, right? And your partner says, your partner has been putting money into the business, and he says that the moment the business starts making sales, he will want to pull the money out of the business. And now you're asking for my advice, right? What should you do? So disagreements and conflicts between business partners is one of the biggest reasons why businesses die. And it's an unfortunate reality because sometimes the business has potential, the business is doing well, but the problem is that the business partners, who before now used to be friends, close friends or family, they can't see eye to eye anymore. And because of those irreconcilable differences, the owners of the company are in such a big fight that the business can no longer continue as a going concern. So I see a couple of questions packaged into this one question. The first lesson we should learn from here is Who should you go into business with as a business partner? That somebody is your friend, is that sufficient reason for that person to be your business partner? Some people will say yes, others will say no. It's not, there's no clear-cut answer. Now, the advantage is that if somebody is your friend, it appears there's some kind of alignment. Your personalities agree. This is somebody with whom you have some connection, some a soft spot for, somebody who is your friend. But there's a reason why people say separate business from friendship. There's a reason why people say that you should separate business from friendship, because the rules that apply in friendship do not always apply in business. And sometimes a friendship can color the nature of a business relationship and introduce unnecessary sentiments. A friendship is a sentimental relationship. A business relationship is much more based on logic and material. It all depends on what you're bringing to the table. So, based on the question, I understand that the two of you are architects, and your friend has the two of you agree that your friend should become the MD, CEO, and then you are the executive director and chief marketing officer. From what I'm seeing here, the signs are already getting clear. Your friend strikes me as somebody who is domineering and who wants to call the shots. I don't know if you are the kind of person who is willing to accept that kind of character in business. And if right now the business has not really taken off, and the two of you are already having squabbles around who should own how much equity and who should be what, imagine what will happen when this business becomes like very successful. The two of you are going to tear yourselves apart because of the conflict that you're having. So, while friendship is good, not all friendships will make good, not all friends will make good business partners. So you need to watch it. So you and somebody can be very good friends, but the moment he gets into a business relationship, you will start to notice that the character of the person may change, or you will eventually find out that person's real character. Remember what they say: if you want to know somebody's real character, test them with what? Money or power. Money and power have the unique ability of letting you know what somebody's true character is. So, based on that, I'm already starting to see that your friend's character is such that he believes he should be superior to you in the business, right? And he believes that he should be able to call the shots and own more in the business. This essentially is a battle for control and ownership. Now, that being said, I'm not totally writing off that your friend may not have some merits. And what do I mean? When you are going to be business partners with somebody, how should you share equity in the company? The basis for sharing equity is fairness. You want to share equity in a way that nobody is going to feel cheated. Number one rule. The second rule is that you want to share equity in a way that people get compensated or people get ownership based on what they bring to the table. So if you bring something small to the table, you get something small. If you bring a lot to the table, you get more. That is fair. The third rule is risk. People who take more risk in the business deserve to get more in terms of equity, ownership, and compensation. So if you are taking more risk, you deserve to get more in the company. So if your friend is bringing more money to the table, and now let me break it down. When you are forming a company with somebody and you're having that conversation about how should we share equity, should it be 50-50, 60-40, 30-70, 10-90, whatever it is, this basis will depend on what each party is bringing to the table. And what can parties bring to the table when you are forming a company? At the top of the list is money, capital. That is usually the most tangible thing you can see when you are starting a company. Some people want to start a company and they share the equity on things that are frivolous. Like, okay, I got the idea first, so I should own the company 70-30. So on the basis of the idea, you're getting a majority interest. Does that even make any sense, right? Some people will say, like I read in this person's comments, your friend says he's more qualified, right? He has a project management certificate and things like that. And on that basis, he deserves to get more from the company. Does that make sense? I'm going to explain. So, like I was saying, the first thing people can bring to the table when you're starting a business is capital. Capital is tangible. You can count it. You can prove it. Capital. The other thing people can bring to the table when you're starting a business is expertise, know-how. Either you know the product you are going to sell very well, or you know the market very well. Expertise, knowledge, skills, and experience. That is something valuable that people can bring to the table. The downside to knowledge, skills, and experience is that we cannot value it. Now, not in terms of, because of course you can value a degree, a master's degree or a PhD. If you want, we can put a value on it. But when you're starting a business, what really matters is the materiality, money on ground, or the ability to convert something into money. So even if you have the knowledge, skills, and experience, how can that help us succeed as a company? So, for example, can you use your knowledge, skills, and experience to make sales for the company? So sometimes people want to start a business and they say things like, I have experience in this market and I can bring in sales of 100 million naira within our first 3 months. And on that basis, you should give me the lion's share of equity. Give me 60%. You cannot afford to share equity on the basis of promises. You have to share equity on the basis of real stuff, not on the basis of promises or what people have or they think they have. So that's another thing people can bring to the table: knowledge, skills, and experience. Another thing people can bring to the table when you're forming a company is time. Businesses need time. And sometimes you may have the capital, but you may be engaged in your job. Maybe you're a lawyer, doctor, engineer, you have a full-time career, and you're not quite ready to pull out of your career and start focus on business full-time, right? Somebody who can contribute that time can get compensated for the time. Another thing you can contribute when you're starting a company is relationships, networks. So if you can contribute relationships or networks that can lead to sales, then that is valuable. So there's a simple rule here. The person or people who bring money when a business is starting, those are the people who can claim the higher percentage of equity. So let me give you a couple of scenarios. You want to start a dry cleaning business, a laundry shop, and I come up with the idea, but you come up with the capital. You come up with $50,000 to start this business. Are we going to give me the lion's share of the equity because I brought the idea? No. But you've provided us with $50,000 in hard capital. What that means is you should have the majority of the equity because you've brought hard cash to the table. My idea is not, ideas are not yet money until you can translate them into money. Yeah. So one basic rule: if the person brings capital, they deserve to get higher value in the company. That one is already guaranteed because we can see the money, $50,000. Then if the person who brings the money doesn't have the time to run the business, and I say, okay, I brought the idea and I'm willing to run the business full time. I'm going to manage the business. I'm going to run the business. The two of us are business partners. You've brought $50,000. I came up with the idea for the concept for the business, and I'm going to be running it full time. So I'm going to be contributing my time and, of course, the idea. So the question is this: how much equity should we give me for my time and my idea? Let's break it down. The time I'm going to devote to that business. If we were going to hire a manager to run that business, how much will we normally pay that kind of person? So if we assume we're going to hire a manager and we'll pay the manager 15,000, let's say $15,000 a year, that is the salary, around 800 or so dollars a month. That's that sort of thing, right? So if the normal salary is $15,000 a year, and I'm saying I'm going to be devoting my time, what it means is that the value of the contribution of my time is $15,000 a year. That's the contribution for my time. But there's a problem. I've not yet contributed the time. I've only committed to contributing that time. Why this is important is this: there are people who start a business and people promise different things. I'm going to run the business. I'm going to bring in this connection. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. On the basis of promises, you share equity. And of course, you're going to be disappointed because the moment people get their equity, sometimes they abscond. You don't see them anymore. So to make sure people don't just take equity and run away, one thing you can do is that thing called vesting. So if we have agreed that you're contributing $15,000 a year in time equivalent, your $15,000 should only mature as you contribute the time. So for every month that you work in the business and you meet the performance expectations, that proportion of your equity, $15,000 divided by 12, which is the monthly equivalent of your equity, that will now vest. So you have to make it clear. Nobody gets equity in the business until their contribution is confirmed. So if somebody brings in money into a business, that contribution is confirmed. You got the cash, the money is in the bank account, is confirmed. That person gets their equity. But the person that is going to contribute time or contacts, or the one who is making promises that are going to help us make sales, until those things you promise come in, you cannot get your full equity. So this should help solve the problem of promises. When people make certain promises, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to bring this, I'm going to bring that. At the end of the day, they may end up not coming through with those things, but you've already given them equity. And that's where the problem starts. The other component to this question that I saw is that your friend has been bringing in money into the business. And he says that the moment the business starts making sales, he wants to get his money back. He wants to get his money back. One thing you need to understand is that when you put in equity into a business, yes, you can also take equity out of the business. So the implication of this is that if your friend owns 60% of the company because he brought in $60,000 as capital into the business, the moment he withdraws money out of that business as compensation for the investments he made, he will also lose equity. So if he put in $60,000, for example, and he wants to pull out $20,000, what it means is that by the time you prorate it against his ownership in the business, when he takes out money, he's also going to lose his own share of capital, because the money he's drawing out is not entirely profit. Let me explain. When you own equity in a business, there are two ways you can get your money. There are two ways you can benefit from that investment as an equity holder. The first way is profit. If I own a business 50-50 with you, and that business makes profit of $1,000 net profit, the two of us have to share it 50-50 because the profit belongs to the owner or owners of the business. So the owners of the business share profits. That is one way you can get money out of a business as an equity holder. The second way you can get money out of a business as an equity holder is from the sale of your equity. So if the two of us own a business 50-50, 50%, 50%, right? And we sell that company for 100 million. What it means is that the two of us are going to share that 100 million 50-50, because that 100 million is the sale of the company, which is the sale of 100% of the equity of the company. And since we own the company 50-50, we are going to share the proceeds in that proportion. So those are the only two ways an equity holder can take their money out of a business: from profit or from the sale of their equity, right? So when your partner is saying that he wants to draw out equity, what he means is that he wants the company to sell his equity and give him the money. That's essentially what's going on here. The company is going to sell the equity and give him the money. Why I'm saying this is that it must not be that way. As an owner of a business, you can lend money to your business. Your business can borrow money from you. And usually, this is the approach that I recommend. Leave the equity alone. Equity is important because it grows over time. It does the whole capital gains. That's how you benefit from equity. But if you're going to lend money to your business as a loan, so you start this business, you own the business 100%, but the business cannot pay rent, for example. What some people do is they go and take money from outside the business, or they take money from their own personal funds and pay the rent for the business. You've paid the rent for the business. Now you need to understand, the business did not pay that rent. The business did not pay that rent. The money for that rent came from outside the business. And this is where that concept of separation is important. You are separate from your business. You're a separate person from your business. So when you pay bills for your business actually owes you money. This is an important concept that many business owners do not take advantage of. When you pay bills for your business owes you money. But the reason why we don't take it seriously is because we think we are one and the same with the business. Yes, the business is your baby, but the business is a separate thing from you. And if you really want to look at it, imagine you didn't have that money. you would have gone to borrow that money from outside or get that money from outside. So anything outside the business, including you, you are an outsider to your business because your business is separate. If you pay rent for your business, if your business is unable to make salaries for the month and you go into your own private pocket, you go and liquidate some of your investments, you sell land or property and pay the salary on behalf of the business, that money is owed to you. Your business owes you money, and those things have to be recorded. Why is it important? The moment you start raising money from outside, if people do not see clearly those times you have lent money to the business, anybody who is coming to invest in your business will assume that all the equity belongs to your business, essentially. And what is equity? Equity is the difference between the assets and liabilities of the company. Assets, what your company owns. Liability, what your company owes. Right? So if you are not keeping records of what your business owes you, you are inflating the asset of the company and you are just going to give away your company, because anybody who invests in your company essentially is taking ownership in the assets of the company. But if you make it clear, if I'm coming to invest in your company, for example, and I see that last year you lent your business $50,000 because you had to do a couple of things, and then this year you lent your business another $20,000, that's another legal and smart way of taking money out of your business legitimately, because any bills you pay for your business is a loan that your business owes you. And when the time is right, you can call in those loans. And more importantly, you can charge your business interest. Now, maybe let me backtrack a bit, right? Interest is a very important concept that business owners need to understand. Why? Interest is tax-free. So remember what I said in the beginning, right? One of the benefits of being an equity owner in a business is that you get paid from profit. Now, what is profit? Profit is what remains when you've paid all the bills in the business. You've paid your suppliers, you've paid your rent, you've paid employees the salary, you've paid interest on any loan you've taken to a bank. You've paid the tax man. That is only when you can take profit. So profit is actually sometimes a disadvantage for you because you end up removing a lot of money before you can get profit. But if you lend money to your business, if your business borrows money from you, your business can pay you interest, and that interest will be tax-free. Because if you look at a profit statement, you remove interest before you charge tax. So if you lend money to your business, you can legitimately remove that money, which is like a way of taking money out of your business, making money from your business, and not paying, and your business will not pay tax on it. But when you take profit from your business has already paid tax, because you pay tax, you remove tax before you take profit. So profit is not very effective in terms of pulling money out of your business. And for those people who may have missed the last time I said this, I said as a business owner, there are 3 ways you can take money out of your business. The first is as an employee of the business. So if you call yourself MD, CEO, you call yourself director, principal consultant, you call yourself chief architect, creative director, operations manager, all these titles you give to yourself as a business owner, you write on your business cards, on your email signature. Those things actually give you the opportunity to earn a salary from your business, because as an employee of the business, you are entitled to salary. Excuse me. But what if your business cannot afford to pay you a salary? What do? For most people, we forgive the business. After all, the business is my baby. It cannot afford to pay a salary. So yes, I can't take any salary now, so I forgive the business. No, your business owes you money as a salary. If the business cannot pay you, put it in there in the books. October 2024, salary, 300,000 naira, not paid, loan. So that is money your business is owing you. That is a debt. Those things can rack up. And at some point, you can start taking that money out of your business, because those are salaries, unpaid salaries from the past that your business has not paid you, that your business has not paid you. So you can draw those things. So the first way you can take money out of your business is as a salary. The second way you can take money out of your business, I already talked about it before, is from profits, which is what remains when you remove all the costs of running your business. Whatever remains is profit. That is the one that most people wait for. And the problem with profit is that many times you wait for profit, but there's no profit at the end of the day. After you've paid your suppliers, paid the landlord, paid your employees their salary, you've paid the taxman, you've paid the bank. Usually there's nothing remaining in terms of salary. So you are going to leave empty-handed. That is why I encourage business owners to not only depend on salary as the only way their business will pay them. To not only depend on profit as the only way their business will pay them. The first way is salary. The second is profit. The third is as a lender to your business. When you lend money to your business has to pay you back. And sometimes your business may have to pay you back with interest, right? So why am I saying this? Even though this is more like a long-winded way around this question. This guy who has said that his business partner wants to pull money out of the business because he invested money in the business, and now that the business is making sales, he wants to pull his money out of the business. You need to let your partner know there are two options. If you pull out this money, you are pulling out equity. So if you pull out equity, if you pull out this money, your equity in this business will drop. So if you brought in $60,000 and you own 60% equity in the business, if you pull out $20,000, your equity will drop. Your equity has to drop because what you're doing is you are selling your equity to the company and the company is paying you. The other thing is, the other option is, can your friend convert that money he's been investing in the business into a loan? If he can make it a loan, he will even benefit more from it. Because if it is a loan and there's interest on it, the best form of fertilizer for a loan is time. Because as time grows, as time passes, the interest grows and what you are being owed by the business accumulates. So I think it's up to your friend to determine if what he wants to take out of the business is his equity, or if he wants to convert the money he put into the business, he wants to convert it into a loan, and then the business will have to pay him back, right? So that is it for question number one. I think the key takeaways from this is business partnerships can be powerful. There's no doubt. Business partnerships can be powerful. If you find the right business partner, somebody who has skills, experience, and a personality that is complementary to yours, you're really going to enjoy a business partnership. Whether your business partner was your friend before the partnership or not. There are people who start companies with people they didn't know before, and now they are business partners, and everything is going well because there's mutual understanding, there's alignment in terms of the vision, there's mutual respect, and there's no pressure from one party to domineer or dominate the other person. So I think that compatibility is very important if you're starting this kind of relationship with your friend. You don't want to start a business with a business partner with whom you are not comfortable speaking your mind, with whom you always feel is inferior, with whom you always feel inferior, or you feel he's always trying to subdue you, or always just get one over you. You don't want to have a business partner who thinks he's superior to you. And of course, everybody has their areas. But when you notice that somebody doesn't respect you, or as they say in Nigeria, you notice that somebody doesn't rate you, that's not a good sign when you are starting a business. There has to be that mutual respect. In fact, I would even argue there should be mutual admiration. You admire how good this person is with their own side of the business and what they do, and that person equally admires you. So when you speak, they listen. When they speak, you listen. That's the kind of dynamic that builds a strong business partnership. But if you are building a business partnership with somebody who doesn't respect your judgment, doesn't respect your opinion, doesn't really fit your personality. I'm not saying that the two of you should be the same kind of personality. I've seen business partners where one is an extrovert, the other one is an introvert, or two of them are introverts, or two of them are extroverts. Or one person loves sports and the outdoors, and the other person is a really very quiet person. There's no prescription for the kinds of people that make the best business partners. But as long as these essential ingredients are in there, the two of you have mutual respect, and like I said, mutual admiration for yourself. You don't feel inferior to that person. That person doesn't try to make you feel inferior. That person is not, I don't want to call it greed, right? Because when you're running a business and you're mentioning greed, sometimes I don't think it applies. But You want somebody who is fair. And from their reasoning, you will know when somebody is fair. You know, the moment people talk and give you the reasons for the things that they say, you can instantly tell as an adult if somebody is being fair or being trying to be manipulative or oppressive, right? So I think these signs you are seeing, some of these signs are early warning signs, right? Either you have a business partnership contract, and this is one important thing I should have said early on. I don't know if you have a business partnership contract. Usually, registering at the CAC, pay attention to this, registering your company and splitting equity is not the entire story. If you are going to share equity with somebody, there's something called a shareholders agreement. A shareholders agreement. If this is the first time you're hearing it, I encourage you to reach out to your lawyer or even read up more on this online. There's something called a shareholders agreement. You need to have a shareholders agreement that states what each party is bringing to the table, what the responsibilities of each party will be, what the obligations of each party will be. Until you have a shareholders agreement, you are always going to have this mental torture or second guessing yourself or thinking that your friend is playing some form of hanky panky. The big mistake that people make is that they register the company, and because the registration documents say 30/70, that settles the matter. No, you need to have a shareholders agreement or a business partnership agreement. It doesn't matter the title you call it, but the content of that agreement defines the relationship between the two of you. What you own, what you're going to do for the business. If somebody wants to leave the business, how is it going to work? If there is dispute or conflict, how will it be resolved? So that you forget all this guesswork that's going on. So I'm thinking that the main reason why this happened is that there's no shareholders agreement. So for example, if there was a shareholders agreement and the two of you agreed to share equity in the company 55/45, there's no way your friend would have gone ahead to register the company as a 60/40 partnership. It will not fly. It will not fly because what it means is that he would have breached the contract. But right now, what you're experiencing is a case of you said, I said. That's what's going on here. I thought you said 55/45. And your friend is saying, I thought we agreed 60/40. You need to have that agreement very clear. It states what the two of you are going to own, what you're going to do, what your friend is going to do, and you make life easy for yourselves. So I've spent almost 30 minutes discussing this first question. Let's now go on to the second question. The second question, you didn't leave your name, but from the WhatsApp name, I see it's Absolute Grace. And this one says, good evening to you, sir. I run a small lending company and decided to go for a partnership agreement with a friend after 3 years of successfully running the company. We went into a 25% stake agreement and he committed 20% of the agreed sum. Unfortunately, he has not come through with the remaining funds after 4 months. After several verbal reminders, I liquidated some of my assets to raise funds when I couldn't wait for him to come through anymore. What is the smartest way for me to end the partnership? He's a good friend and I really do not want to hurt him. But in all sincerity, I have to move on. So to summarize, this guy agreed with his friend that his friend was going to bring in money into his business. I think he said a 25% stake, right? But the friend only committed 20%. And because he didn't come up with the rest of the money, this guy had to liquidate some assets to come up with the rest of the money and all that. So I'm not sure what the nature of the agreement you had with your friend is. And this is why, again, it's always important. This is a second case now. I don't understand what kind of coincidence this is, but this is the second question I'm addressing on this business clinic. And the theme is consistent with the first question. Two friends want to do business. The first one, two friends want to do business in terms of equity. In this case, two friends are doing business. He runs a lending company. He has already started the business and he's inviting his friend. The danger of getting a friend to do business with you is that you are going to be making some assumptions that may end up hurting you. And one of those assumptions is that this person is my friend. So because they are my friend socially, it means that now that we're coming into a business relationship, we totally understand ourselves. Business and friendship do not always mix well. Sometimes they mix, other times they don't. But because you don't know if your own situation is going to be a case where friendship mixes well with business, you cannot make assumptions. You have to make these things very clear. I remember I had to lend money to a friend, and this is somebody who, if I was lending money to him personally, I wouldn't need to remind him of anything or write it down because it's a personal, if I'm giving him money personally. But when you are giving somebody money for business reasons, you have to fight the discomfort because sometimes you don't feel comfortable formalizing the discussion because this person is your friend. If you're giving the person a personal loan or you're giving them money in a personal capacity, maybe it's fine. You don't need to write down anything. But if you're going to invest in your friend's business, things have to be written. And most times, it may not need to be a contract. It might be a WhatsApp message or an email that clearly defines, Fred, this is what we discussed. This is what we agreed. We agreed I'm going to give you 10 million, and you agreed that you're going to pay back in 6 months, and you agreed you're going to pay me an interest of 15%. Blah, blah, blah. Please confirm that this is what we agreed so that I can go ahead and send you the money. It's very simple. It's not complicated. Why do you need to write these things down? Remember what I said before, friendships lead to unhealthy assumptions in business. So to avoid the assumption, one thing you can do is to create a reference so that if any disagreement happens in the future, and which is what makes doing business with friends weird, we are trying to avoid arguments or conflicts or disagreements. So we end up just allowing certain things slide. But if you have a reference point, like a contract or an agreement, you can make it very clear and say, this is what we agreed. And you and you confirmed it, right? So why is this not happening the way we agreed? That's an important way for you to play it. So to answer this guy's question, if your friend brought in 20% of the money and you guys agreed 25%, I'm not sure what you promised your friend in terms of return. From this, your question, you didn't state whether this is equity or a loan. You didn't specify, right? But let me assume that your friend brought in this money with an expectation that they will get a return on this investment, that it's not a long-term, protracted equity deal, right? One way I will play this is if your friend brought in, for example, 20 million naira, and he was supposed to bring in 30 million naira. He only brought in 20 million naira. I will pay him back. I will return his 20 million naira to him with interest. What interest rate will I use? I will use the interest rate that assumes that if he puts that money in the bank, that is the interest he would have been paid on that money. That's the barest minimum I will pay him, right? The interest, assuming he puts the money in a savings account in the bank. The second level of interest I may pay him, now I'm giving you options. The second level of interest I may pay him would be to look at how much return did I make by using his money. So if I used his money, combined it with my money, and I made a return of 30%, for example, I did a deal of 30%, because he's your friend and you didn't agree anything, for the sake of goodwill, pay him back his money with the 30% return that you made. So don't forget what I'm saying here. Your friend brought in 20 million, but you actually needed 30 million to do the deal. So you added your own 10 million, right? So you used the 30 million to do that business and you made a return of 30%. Pay back your friend his 20 million with the 30% and let him know you brought in this money. It wasn't enough to do the deal. I had to go and liquidate assets to get this deal done. This is the profit I made from this business, and this is your share. Very straightforward. That is something you can do to compensate your friend. The last thing you should avoid is allowing the money linger, which is another problem I notice with people who do business with friends. Because you are afraid or unwilling or uncomfortable about having the hard discussion. You allow the things slide. So I've seen people who took money from their friends 5 years ago. Something went wrong. There was some disagreement. They refused to talk about that money. And now it is 5 years after. And now it is much more complicated, much more complex. Your friend 5 years ago thought the money he gave you was for 20% of your company. Then your company was not worth anything. But in your mind, you believe you agreed with him 10%. So your friend is thinking 20%, you are thinking 10%. But 5 years ago, when you took your friend's money, your company was not worth much. Now, 5 years after, your company is worth a lot of money. And that issue is still unresolved. Your friend thinks he owns 20% of your company. You believe what he deserves is 10%. Now, what do you think is going to happen when you have that conversation 5 years too late? Your friend is going to think that because you've made money, because your company has grown, you've become greedy and selfish. Now you want to cheat him out of his legitimate 20%. That's what it's going to look like. And when he presents this case before anybody who arbiters or tries to act as a judge, people will think you changed the rules. You moved the goalposts because your company has now become more successful. So, but the problem here is that you refused to have a hard conversation 5 years ago when your company was worth nothing, when nobody could bring up the allegation that you are greedy now because your company is successful. So when the company is worth nothing, no matter how hard that conversation is, that is the best time to have that bad conversation with your friend. Because as time passes and your business becomes more successful, your friend is going to think that the reason you are saying the things you are saying is because the business is now making more money and has now become successful. So you become greedy and you want to cheat him. And those are the things that tear friendships apart and sometimes can tear the business apart, because the friend can sue you, the friend can sabotage the company, the friend can do certain things to you that may not be in the best interest of the company. So this is why when you go into business with friends, you need to make things clear. And it doesn't, like I need to keep saying it. When I say making things clear, I don't mean you should go and pay your lawyer a lot of money and get it may not need to be an agreement. The example I gave you suffices. You send him a WhatsApp message or send her an email and say, based on our discussion, based on our agreement to invest in your company, these are the things we have agreed. I am going to invest 10 million in your company by this date. You have agreed that that in exchange for my money, I am going to get 15%, 25% of the company. We have agreed that as from 5 years, you can buy me out of this investment. We have agreed that you are going to be responsible for running the company on a day-to-day basis, and you'll be sharing reports with me every quarter. You make all these things very clear. And then you send that WhatsApp message to your friend or send the email to your friend and say, I've sent you those things. Please confirm. Please confirm so I can send the money. And then your friend will read the message and say, no, 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 no. The second bullet point, we didn't agree 15%, right? What I discussed with you is 10%. But if you can bring in this much, then it can be 15%. Then you have the basis to have that hard conversation right there before the company takes off and grows. But if you don't resolve that problem, it can end up harming you later, right? So even though I've gone beyond what Absolute Grace has asked in this question, all I've said is very simple. Return your friend's money with something on top. And how do you know what to add on top? The profit you've made by using your friend's money, paying back the profits. Or if you haven't made any profits, but that money has been sitting with you, at the minimum, pay him back what the banks would have paid him as a savings deposit interest, which is not much these days. I think it's about 4 to 5% per annum. So if you have been holding his money for, say, 3 or 4 months, what you might need to pay him might be about 1% or so. But the goal here is to be fair, because you don't want to damage your friendship because of this business misunderstanding. And that's why sometimes people say they don't want to mix friendship with business. That's because business introduces a new angle to the friendship that the friendship may not be ready for. The business dealing may bring out a face or character in your friend that you've never seen before, and you don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to react, right? So I'm not saying it is bad for friends to go into business. All I'm saying is, if you want the friendship to work in favor of the business partnership, you need to be careful about how you manage it. You need to manage the friendship, because taking a friendship into a business relationship is a new dimension. So you need to manage that transition. And one of the ways of managing that transition is to make sure that the communication and agreements you have are very clear. Always clarify points. And the reason why this is important is that friends always make assumptions all the time. In your friendship, you make a lot of assumptions. I thought we said we're going to hang out next week, Tuesday. And then you say, no, 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 I said Monday. And you laugh about it. And it's not a big deal. This is what you've been doing with your friend for a long time. You make all sorts of assumptions. You call your friend, he doesn't pick, he sends you a message, and then, all sorts of things. You make assumptions. So people end up bringing in that behavior in their friendship into business. And most times, business cannot bear it, because there are real losses. There are big implications when you don't do things properly in business. So that's why you need to be deliberate in managing a friendship. When you are taking money from a friend, you need to specify, what is this money for? Is this going to be equity or debt? If it is equity and your friend is giving you money, how much equity are you giving? Don't postpone that decision, because the longer you postpone it, the more expensive and the more difficult, the more convoluted and complex the problem is going to be. So if your friend is giving you money, what is the money for? Is it for equity? If it's for equity, what percentage are you offering? Be clear. If it is a loan, how much interest should your friend expect? I've seen situations where somebody will say a friend gave them money, and then when they ask them, when should they pay back, or so, the friend is like, just put in your business, no problem. When you can pay back. It's always important to clarify, because assumptions are the things that can spoil these sorts of relationships. So I guess my advice is very clear. Pay back your friend his money and put something on top. And I've told you how to determine how you're going to put something on top. The next question is from a guy. Says, hello, Mr. John. My name is Adeleke Adejumo. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Please find my question below. Question number one, how do I systematize the operations of a business to run independently without necessarily needing the owner's presence always? Number two is how to hire and manage employees. Question number three, the best and effective marketing strategies for a startup business with a moderate advertising budget of like 5 million naira. More importantly, I'm desperately in need of joining the BMG for the space you mentioned in one of your videos. Okay, so before that skips my mind, Adeleke has asked 3 questions in one, and also made inquiry about the BMG. So yes, we have 30 spots available in the BMG for new members, right? And we're going to be, those new members will come in a week from today. So that will be on the 3rd of November, I believe. So next Saturday, that's when we are going to be accepting new members. After this business clinic, we're going to announce, more or less the normal routine, the question and answer, that typical questions that people will have about joining the BMG, how they can pay, what the price is, and all of that. And then next week, Saturday, you can make your payment and join us in the BMG. But we only have 30 slots. Only 30 slots. So once those 30 slots are gone, anybody who doesn't get in will have to wait until the next point. Remember, it's very important to manage the experience in the BMG, because we are optimizing for quality, not quantity. We don't just want everybody to come in, even though in some aspects of the BMG, we have the capacity to take on more than we are currently doing. But we are at the point where we are still building the culture and the DNA and the identity of the BMG. So I don't want to dilute it with so many people. So what we're doing is we're scaling a bit at a time. Right now, we can only accept 30 people. I don't know if before the end of the year we might get more vacancies. But until then, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. So to answer your question, if you want to join the BMG, you can join it a week from today. Let me actually calculate. Today is the 26th. So a week from today would be the 2nd. Yeah, the 2nd of November, I believe. The 2nd of November is next Saturday. So next Saturday, we are going to be we're going to open the portal, the payment portal, so that anybody who wants to join the BMG can join. Once the 30 slots are taken up, then we'll have to wait until the next point. So let me address these questions. I'm already getting dry lips, so let me get a drink of water. Mhm. Okay. So how do I systematize a business operations to run independently without necessarily needing the owner's presence? There are several different ways I can answer this question, but I want to take it from an angle that I believe many people will be able to relate with. When you are building a business and you are facing a lot of overwhelm, you're overwhelmed by the responsibility of building the business. One of the key risks that you face the moment you decide to pull out of that business is losses. Losses from mistakes, losses from deliberate fraud. In my line of work, most of the feedback I'm getting right now, a lot of the losses that business owners are facing when they pull out, when they step aside from their business, is they lost due to fraud, where people think, okay, the boss is no longer around, so we can touch money. So before we even talk about how to systematize the business so that it can work in your absence, we need to look at we need to we need to we need to plug the money gaps that exist in the business. What do I mean by money gaps? Money gaps are the ways that somebody may steal from the business when you're not available. One of those ways is through sales. The moment a customer is bringing money to your business, the moment a customer wants to pay you for a product or service, that is one opportunity a person will have to have access to that money. Now, for some businesses are lucky such that the only way the customer can pay is to the company account. Maybe they don't hold cash. So for some business owners, the power they have is that they are in control of the sales, because the moment a customer pays money, it goes direct to an account and it's difficult for anybody to touch that money, right? So you need to be able to plug that gap. But if you run a business where you sell items, maybe you run a retail store and customers can come into your store, buy an item, and then give the money to your staff, that is a loophole that needs to be that you need to be careful with, because the moment you step aside from the business, things can start to go wrong from that angle. The second way money can leak from your business is from spending. So remember, money comes into a business from sales when customers pay you. The money starts to leave when you spend on certain things like pay rent, pay salaries, buy paper for your printer, right? Pay for internet access. By the time you start making all those payments, that's how money leaves the business. So if people can find a way to spend money to get you to release money for them to spend, or spend money and justify it on the basis of they need something, they need to spend that money, but then the money is going some other way. One example of this will be with what is going on with diesel. A Spending on diesel is one of the big cost elements in businesses because they need to pay for power, and things like that. But it's also one of the ways that employees steal money from a business, because when you're going to buy diesel, sometimes they can inflate the cost of the diesel and take the difference. Sometimes they can pilfer part of the diesel and sell it on the side on the black market, right? So those are ways money can leave. The third way money can leave your business is from your products. Your products and assets, if somebody steals your product, the person can sell it outside and take the money. Or if somebody steals your asset like your computer or your car or something, that's also a loss to the business. So my first consideration usually is to make sure you plug all those gaps. If you are away from your business and a customer needs to pay money, is it likely or unlikely that somebody can steal some part or all of that money? That is one key question you need to address before you get keen on systematizing a business, right? And why I'm saying all this is that when you want to systematize a business, there are three core areas that make it difficult for you to systematize a business. The first is the one I just talked about now, which is the finance. Some business owners cannot step away from their business because they need to control the money. The moment they step aside, things will start going wrong. Money will start getting missing. Leaks will start happening in the business. So because they need to control the money, they have to stay in the business. And that's why they cannot separate themselves from the business. They always have to be present to take money, receive money from customers. They always have to be present to approve money to spend. They always have to be present to overlook and supervise any money that is being spent. So finance is one of the key reasons why some business owners cannot step away from their business, either because payments are not automated or there's a lot of manual and human intervention in how money is received in the business or how money is spent. So finance is one thing that can make it difficult for you to systematize a business. The second is operations. And what is operations? How you make the product or buy the product, how you serve the customers, and how you run other parts of the business, the employees and things like that. To give you one example, there are people who cannot step aside from their business because they need to get involved in procurement. And if you understand how important and how valuable procurement is to certain businesses, you see why the owners of the business cannot step aside. Procurement is how the business buys the products that it sells. And it's one of the sensitive areas of a business, because if you leave it to somebody else who wants to take advantage of the business, they can quickly kill that business. Procurement is one of the ways that money can leak from a business. The person can inflate the cost of the items, right? The person can buy a certain quantity and undersupply. Maybe the person buys 100 units and they only supply 90. So inventory, for businesses that sell physical goods, inventory is a sensitive and weak spot for those businesses. And for that reason, the owner of the business cannot step aside. You always find out that the owner of the business is always involved in procurement, talking to suppliers and all that. Because paying suppliers is one of the biggest ways that money leaves a business when it's time to pay a supplier. And it's, of course, it's not uncommon to see situations where employees can connive with suppliers to inflate invoices so that you end up spending more, and then they can share with the supplier. So stealing from a business or inefficiencies in a business can be a couple of different factors. But just like I've said now, in the operations, procurement is one side, production is another side in the making of your products. But with production, the challenge is a bit different, which is that if the production is not going well and you are known by your customers for your quality or for certain attributes for your product, the moment you step aside, if the production capability is not there, you will notice that you'll be suffering quality problems. Your products will not have the same quality they're expected to have when you are around. And this is quite common in service businesses. You will notice that when the owner of the business is around, for example, if it's a beauty salon or a spa salon, the employees put in more effort in serving the customers and delivering the value. But then when the owner is not around, there's this nonchalance in producing the value that they offer to customers. So you notice that for the owner of the business, they always need to be around to make sure that their customers get the experience and the value they pay for. So production is one angle that can keep you stuck in your business in terms of stepping away from that business and running it as a system. Now, of course, if you're used to the way I explain things, I'm explaining the problems before, of course, I can talk about the solutions, because I think many times business owners either do not understand the nature of the problems they're facing or underestimate the scope and scale of the problems. And either of these two things can affect your ability to properly solve that problem. I'm still talking about operations, the areas that will make it difficult for you to systematize your business: procurement, production, administration, admin, the running of the company, making sure the phone is getting answered, emails are being responded to, the office environment looks okay and professional, who handles things around HR and all those things. Admin is one area that keeps business owners very involved and engaged in the business and makes it difficult for them to pull apart from the business, right? So operations, I talked about procurement, production, admin. The third part of your business that will make it difficult for you to systematize is sales. And I'm speaking about this lastly because sales essentially is the heart of the business. That is where most of your money comes in from. So, and of course, sales is in two parts: how you are getting customers, how you are serving and keeping those customers. So, for some business owners, and this is interesting, I've had this conversation with about 3 people in the last month, 2 of them in the BMG, and they were telling me how they've gradually introduced structure into their business. They are now running their business in terms of the systems. They've hired people, they are comfortable. But the biggest problem they have is sales. Nobody can sell as well as they do in the company. So because they are the best salesperson in the company, they are still stuck. And one of them, sadly told me that there was a time he fell ill and the business suffered because there wasn't a lot of sales coming in. The operations side, he has handled it well because whenever they make a sale, he now has a technical team that can be deployed to do the job. And he as the owner of the business, doesn't need to go there. So as you can imagine, he has sorted out procurement, production. Those ones are running, automatically. They're running based on systems. So he's done a very good job with that. There are people in the office that pick calls, right? So serving their existing customers, not a problem. But the only thing that is still keeping him glued to the business is sales, because there's nobody in the business that can sell as well as he can. 2 of them are guys. Nobody can sell as well as he can. So these are the 3 things that will make it difficult for you to introduce systems in your business. Finance, how money comes in, how money goes out. Operations, and there are 3 key areas. There's procurement, how you get the products that you sell, raw materials. Production, how you deliver the value, either through making the products or delivering the service. Administration, running the business, right? And of course, the third component is sales. Sales can keep you glued to the business. So now, in terms of addressing these problems, how can you systematize the business? The first step is to be very clear about what you do in all these areas. If you notice, I'm not telling you that the first step is to hire capable people. I've said this before. If you hire capable people in a business and there is no framework, there's no foundation that will guide the work that they do in the business, those people are not going to deliver the kind of value you expect. So when you are a one-man company and you are running everything, and you want to start delegating that work to people that you hire, you have to be able to break down the work in a way that you can explain it to that person and the person can do the work and replace you in a way that it may not be 100%, but anything from 60, 70, 80% is fine. Then you gradually guide and coach the person until the person gets to 100%. That's fine. So you don't just hire people first when you are trying to systematize a business. You have to create the right foundation. What do I mean by the right foundation? If for your production, for example, the way you make your products, there are people who cannot really explain how they make their products. They just tell you it's natural, it's out of their creativity, their innovation. If you are the only person who can make that product, it will be very difficult for you to systematize that business, because until you can replace yourself either with another human being or with automation or with a system, you are locked and trapped in that business. You're not going anywhere because there's a component of the business that only you can do. So you have to find a way to explain and break down how you do what you do. So if, for example, for procurement, the way you get raw material, the way you get products or raw materials in your business, you can say, for example, that we have a list of pre-vetted suppliers, and then we ask the suppliers to give us their price lists, how much they sell these things. And then this is how I make the decision. These are the days that we buy products. This is how we get them delivered. This is how we manage our inventory. You should be able to break down those things before you even hire people to come into the business and take those roles. So the first step is breaking down those things into processes, activities, whatever they are. And then, of course, the next level is if you have any enablers like policies, these are things you cannot do, or these are the things that you can do. You have a checklist. If you get a customer on board, what are the questions you ask? What are the things you have to do to deliver from the time a customer makes an order to the time you deliver the product? You can use a checklist for that. So you need to break down what you do in a way that you can explain it to the people you're going to hire. Then this brings me to your next question. How can you hire and manage employees? Hiring is a thorny issue. In fact, the way I explain it is that after sales and raising money, hiring is the biggest headache that business owners have. Hiring. And why is that? Why is it that in economies where we're saying the unemployment rate is really high and there are a lot of people that are looking for jobs, people are desperately looking for jobs. On the other hand, in my constituency, I work a lot with business owners and entrepreneurs. And the complaint is still there that you can't find sufficient capable people that can do the kind of jobs that you want them to do. So what is going on here is that you have a lot of people who are looking for employment, but many of them are not employable, as it were. Employable. So if you are going to hire somebody, the first step is you need to be very clear. What do you need this person to do for you? Why this question is important is that some people know they need to hire people. They tell you, I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot to be done, but there's nobody to do it. Mic check. Mic is good. There's a lot to be done, but there's nobody to do it. I need help. I need to hire somebody. I need to hire somebody. You keep hearing, I need to hire somebody. But the question is, who do you need to hire? What do you want that person to do for you? If you are not clear about the answer to these questions, you end up hiring somebody, and then after a couple of days, weeks, or months, you just find out that the person is not adding any value. It's not that the person doesn't want to add any value, but you have mishired. You were not very clear about what you wanted that person to do for you before you hire that person. So now that I've explained the areas that will be a big problem for you when you want to systematize a business, I mentioned that one of those areas is finance, right? If you want to start removing yourself from the business and you are now ready to hire people, and you know that finance is one of the weak spots, and you are hiring somebody that will help you track money. So you are looking for either a bookkeeper or an accountant, full-fledged accountant. And the reason you're hiring this person is that you want more visibility into the numbers of the business when you are not around. I had a conversation last week with a gentleman, and coincidentally, we were discussing this same thing. The reason we're having that conversation is that he wanted to go straight into hiring people. In fact, he said the people he has right now, he may need to fire all of them and hire new people. And my advice to him was, you can't even fire these people now because we don't even know what the data is. You've been running this business for 3+ years now, but because it's a cash-rich business, you don't even know how much profit you are making. You don't even know the cost profile of the business, how the expenses roll, how the money goes out of the business. You don't know those things. So the first person you need to hire is a finance person, either a finance manager or an accountant. And the job of that person is to keep records of all the inflows and outflows in that business, how the business is spending money. When you see your numbers, what that does for you is magical, because with your numbers alone, you can run a business without being present. And to give you an instance of this, the gentleman I was speaking with has about 3 different locations of his business that run, and he gives them inputs, he gives them materials to work with. So if you're not tracking the numbers and you give one of your locations 20 million worth of inputs and they are not delivering sales for you, that you clearly know that something is going wrong. You're giving somebody 30 million in terms of inputs, raw materials, and after they finish their work, you are not seeing it in the sales. You know clearly something is going wrong. is either they are wasting the materials, stealing the materials, right? You just know that something is wrong. So you have to look at the data first. And that data starts from finance. So you hire a finance person and you start to watch the data. After finance, you move into operations. Usually with operations, you go straight to production, the making of the products. You have to be able to teach your people how to make the products without essentially losing your trade secrets. I've addressed this in a previous business clinic. You can teach your people how to make the product without losing your trade secrets. Imagine you run a bottled water company or sachet water company. There's really nothing to copy there. But the process is very straightforward. The machines do the work, the humans operate the machines. You provide the inputs from the packaging materials to the water and everything, and then your people run all of it. You know what your input is, and then you measure your output. Based on that, you know whether your people are being productive, whether they are stealing from you, or if the business is inefficient. The data will tell you, the data will paint the picture, the true picture of what is going on in your business for you, right? So hiring, like I said before, you have to be very clear on what that person is going to do for you. The other thing you need to consider for hiring is this. When people try to hire, they see hiring as a cost, and this is an important part of this life. Sorry. People see hiring as a cost. Meanwhile, hiring is supposed to be an investment, because when you think about it, if you hire the right people and they do work in your business, you're going to gain significantly from their expertise, from their experience, and their productivity in your business. So hiring is not a cost, hiring is an investment. But the problem is that when people treat hiring as a cost, they just hire anybody who will no, they just set, like, this is the salary I can pay, and then anybody who takes that job is the person they give the job to. What you end up getting is what you paid for: a poorly committed mercenary that just took the job because they were desperate, and they may not deliver the way you expect, right? So that's what happens when you deal with hiring as a cost issue. You end up getting low quality because you were hiring based on your budget. But if you're hiring in terms of an investment, if you're looking at hiring as an investment, one thing with an investment is that it will cost you. There's a sacrifice. There's an element of sacrifice in an investment. When you want to invest in something, it takes something out of you. And that's what good hiring looks like. And the reason I say this is that I have this thing I've noticed. Good people, capable people, most of them are not looking for work. Good, capable people, most of them are not looking for work. Many good, capable people that you're looking for are already working for somebody else. They are working for your competitors, they are working for other companies. Because when you really think about it, capable people are sought after. And when people find them, they tend to treat them well and they keep them in a company. That doesn't mean you cannot find capable people. But what it means is that you have to be more competitive if you want to get capable people. Because capable people too are going to be comparing you. What are you offering them? In terms of, let's start from salary. Salary is not the only thing you can offer somebody, but let's start from there. In terms of the salary, you have to be competitive. You have to, before you hire for any position, find out what the market rate for that position is. What are they paying people in different companies in your industry? Or generally, if you want to hire an accountant, for example, a junior accountant or a bookkeeper, in your side of in your country, what is the average, or in the city where you are, what is the average market rate for a bookkeeper? You can't just hire people and set your budget and say, I'm looking for somebody that will take this salary. What you end up attracting is the wrong kind of person who may have the wrong motivations to work for you. So you have to know what the market rate for the route you want to hire is. And then the next thing you have to do is you need to top it up. Because if the market rate for a road, for example, is 400,000 Nigerian naira, if you're going to hire somebody, you're paying 400, the other person is paying 400. There's really no difference. There's nothing that sets you apart. So you need to be able to pay premium if you want to get good people. And the other benefit of paying premium is that if you pay premium, you pay slightly better than other people. You make it harder for anybody you hire to leave you because they know that you're a good paying employer. So it's going to be difficult for them to leave you because if they leave you, they will have to settle for less. They will have to get a lower salary. The other benefit that paying above market does for you is that you then have the right to push the employee. You have the right to push the employee to prove their worth. You have the right to push the employee to deliver a return on the investment you have made because it's an investment. You have to make it very clear. You are paying above market because this is an investment and I need you to prove your worth. And usually in those circumstances where somebody is paid above market, they tend to put in above and beyond because they need to prove to you that they are worthy of the investment you've made in them. So the truth is, capable people are not cheap. If you're going to hire cheap people, you will get what you pay for. So many people, the kind of people who work for them, are based on what they were willing to attract from the marketplace. And I'm sorry I'm premising this just on salary because salary is not the only thing you can offer when you're hiring somebody. So let's talk about all those other things you can offer. When people want to work for you, the first thing they typically see is how much do you pay? How much do you pay, right? But there are other things behind that question. One other key thing that people are looking forward to in an employer is the opportunity to grow. Even if you offer me a salary that is above market, right? For the first couple of months, I'll feel excited. But after some time, I'll start to feel stagnant. And good people, you see capable people, they don't want to be stagnant. They want to grow. So no matter how much you are paying them, if they don't feel like they are growing, when they encounter their peers or discuss with their peers, they will notice, I'm not growing here. So if you're going to hire people, you need to make room for how is this person going to grow in this company. So you can't just hire somebody and say, I'll pay you above market. Paying somebody above market, yes, is enough to attract capable people. But if you're going to keep capable people, you have to offer them something beyond salary. And usually that thing is growth. What does growth mean? Growth implies opportunity to learn. If, for example, you're going to invest in training for them to acquire new knowledge, new skills, you're going to expose them, you're going to invest in exposure. Whether it is attending industry events, summits, helping them learn things that they didn't previously know. Those are ways that people can grow. Another way people can grow is from leadership opportunities, right? You give them the opportunity to take charge of certain things. You allow them take the initiative. They lead a project. They are responsible for delivering a certain thing, which is why I often say that when you hire people, don't hire people for what they are going to do. Don't just say, I'm hiring for you for this position. The job description says you're going to do A, B, C, D, E. Yes, it is fine and good to tell people what they are going to do when they work for you. But more importantly, people need to know what they need to achieve for them to be successful in the company. So, of what use is it to your company that people show up from Monday to Friday, they do all the things you ask them to do, but your company is not, you're not seeing results. You hired somebody for a job. The person is doing everything you ask them to do, and you're paying them a salary, but you're not seeing results. So that's why it's not enough to hire people and just tell them what they need to do. You need to let them know what you want them to achieve. So to give you an example, if you're hiring a salesperson and you say, okay, as part of your sales, as part of your responsibilities, these are the things you're going to do. You're going to be responsible. You're going to be involved in visits, field visits. You're going to be prospecting for clients. You'll be trying to convert them and stuff like that, right? Those are the things that you expect the salesperson to do. But in terms of achievements, you can tell the person that I expect that within 12 months of working for us, you should have hit a sales target of this 100 million, 200 million, 50 million, whatever it is. Capable people are drawn to challenges and targets. And that's one way to know whether you're hiring a capable person. A capable person will be drawn to the challenge of achieving a target. But you see all these ones that are not ready for any challenge, that just want to take their salary from you and don't care whether the company makes progress or achieves anything. you need to be careful with those ones. So that is why I encourage people that when you hire people, don't just tell them what you expect them to do. Also let them know what you expect them to achieve while they are in the business. So if, for example, you hire that salesperson, you tell them what they need to do and tell them that within 12 months, I expect you to hit 100 million naira sales target. The next question you will hear from a serious and capable person is, there are things I will need to achieve that target. So, for example, I will need this. We will need to do this as a company. The person starts to give you ideas because they are interested in that target. So, that's one big difference between people who are motivated only by salary and people who are motivated by growth, the so-called growth mindset. A salary and a pure salary person will tell you what the problems are. We don't have enough diesel. People are not buying. So look at it. A salesperson that is purely on salary, that is only interested in their salary, will tell you, I'm doing all these things, but people are not buying. They present you with problems. They're always presenting you with problems. But people who have a growth mindset don't just tell you about the problem, but they tell you how they are thinking about the problem, and they present you with ideas, suggestions about how that problem could be solved. That's how you know if somebody is interested in growth versus somebody who is just waiting for you to pay them a salary, right? So that's a very important aspect. If you are going to hire people, you need to think about growth. During the interview, you should be telling them, right, within your first year, this is what I expect you to be doing within your first year. If you're with us up to 3 years, this is what you could become. You could end up becoming a head of operations, or because part of what you are selling to somebody when you want to hire them is a vision. You don't just sell them a salary. Anybody who just buys into a salary is small-minded. You need to sell them a vision for the company and say, the way we're building this company, right? Our plan for you is that you're going to start in this role. And if you really perform well in this role, this is another role. We want you to become a supervisor at this level, and then you can become a project lead here. You have to sell them the vision of the journey they are going to take on with your company. You don't just sell people a salary, right? And like I just said, that is one way for you to know if the person you are interviewing or the person you are trying to hire has a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset of how much is a salary, how much can you pay me now? Whether you pay them that salary or not, if they come into your company and they feel like they are not growing, if they feel like they are not growing, they are going to leave you. So that is an important tip. If there's nothing you take away from here, that is an important tip I want you to keep in mind. The third question from you, Amog Adeleke, is the best marketing strategies. Now, one thing I notice on social media is you will always notice somebody is always peddling that latest groundbreaking marketing strategy. These days is AI related or some tactic. I'm not a big fan of fads and these short-term trends because they die off, they don't last. I believe in principles because principles have lasted hundreds of years and will last hundreds of years. That's the nature of a principle. They are foundational. All these trends will come and go, but those foundational principles will always be there. Now, why I'm saying this is that you have a marketing budget of 5 million naira and you're asking for the effective marketing techniques that will help you best deploy that 5 million naira. But unfortunately, you haven't told me what you sell. And why that is important is that what you sell, and particularly who your customers are, will determine the best way you're going to sell, the best way you're going to market what you sell, who your customers are. So to give you one example, there are products that will not do well on social media. The best way to sell them will not be social media. One example that comes to mind would be like in a school, primary school, right? Selling a primary school is more of an offline activity and is more local. You have to be more present, and it is more you walk through your existing customers. That's an example of how you sell that kind of thing. How would you market a fashion business? A fashion business is much more visual, would do well on social media, but not all social media. You can't be selling that kind of a business on maybe like a LinkedIn, right? A fashion business will do well on a visual platform like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, right? So it really depends on what you sell and who you are selling to. That's what will determine your marketing tactics. And if I use myself as an example, my business is consulting, but you will hardly ever see me on social media talking about consulting or buy consulting or sign up for consulting services. How does it make sense that I hardly ever talk about what I actually sell? How does it make sense? The reason is because in marketing, the main job of marketing is to get to grab attention, to grab attention. When you're in the marketing, when you're in the marketing phase, people are not interested in you per se because many of them don't know about you. They don't know what you're about. They are not yet emotionally invested in you. So they don't care about what you sell. So why would I talk about consulting services to people who don't care about to total strangers? So most of my marketing for my business is about problems. I talk about business problems. If you see me on social media, wherever, I'm always talking about business problems. Why do you think my marketing is more about talking about business problems instead of talking about my consulting services, the consulting services that I actually sell? Why is my marketing based on business problems and not consulting services? People don't care about consulting services, especially when they don't know me, because I'm just another person on social media just talking about what they sell. But if I talk about business problems, I already know that for people who are going through those business problems, they're going to connect. They're going to be like, okay, this guy is talking about something that is interesting to me. I'm going through this problem, so let me listen. And your journey with me as a potential customer starts with you paying attention to me. Knowing that my marketing has done a good job starts with me successfully grabbing your attention, particularly in this era of short attention spans. The goal of marketing is to grab attention and hold it. Grab attention and hold it. Because if I cannot hold your attention, I will not be able to tell you more about what I sell. So the job of marketing is to grab attention and hold it. In my line of business, how do I grab attention? I talk about what my potential customers care the most about, which is their problems, their business problems. So I talk about these problems. I talk about the potential solution. What I'm positioning myself as is I'm positioning myself as that person that solves business problems. And you don't need to pay me to find out if I can solve your problem. I can actually give you a taste of it. You will see how I'm solving other people's problems. And then you can then decide if you are willing to invest more in listening and paying attention to me. So I'm giving you this example because in your question, you didn't tell me what kind of business you have, what product you sell, the kind of people you're selling to. But the principle I'm sharing with you here is that the job of marketing is to grab attention, is to get attention and hold that attention. So no matter what it is that you sell, you have to come up with creative ways that will allow you grab attention and hold it. For some businesses, it's billboards. Billboards work fantastic for some kinds of businesses. For some businesses, I was shocked. Radio. Radio is how they sell. They don't even come on social media. They don't do social media. How they sell is radio, because radio is still the medium through which they are able to reach most of their target customers. So for some people, it's radio. For some people, it's still email marketing. They still do email marketing. Email marketing works best for them more than even social media, right? So the marketing techniques you use depend on who you are selling to and what you actually sell. So that is my message to you. If you know what your target market or target customer cares about, that is what you put in front of them. If you look at the fashion industry, for example, most of these brands will hardly tell you buy my clothes or buy my whatever. What they do is they showcase their clothes on somebody. And even when what they sell is clothing, now think about this. Even when what they sell is clothing, you realize that every model who is modeling a fashion piece, they are usually well made. Their hair is made, they have their makeup and all that, and then they have the clothing. Why is it that you sell only clothing, but why the makeup, why the hair? Because what you're selling is not just the clothing. You are selling beauty. The goal of Why I will want you to buy my clothes is that if you buy my clothes, you're going to look more attractive, more beautiful. So I'm not just putting the attention on the clothing. I'm framing it in terms of what you're going to look like when you buy my product, right? So how you sell or how you market, the techniques you use will depend on who you are selling to and the kind of products that you sell. So I guess I'm down to the fourth question now. Yeah, the fourth question. 1 second, let me take a drink. Okay, so the fourth question is from Adam. He says his name is Adam Adebayo, and he says, "Hello, Mr. John Paul. I'm a fashion designer. I make traditional wear such as agbada, kaftan, suits, pants, and shirts. I don't have a physical store yet, and I'm working from home. So all my customers I get from referrals, and they always give me 100% satisfactory review, right? So he says I struggle with value proposition in the bid to get more customers. So meeting up with clients, making them see the value in what I'm posing at them. And also helping them pinpoint certain problems they have in what they wear and offering mine. So in summary, what I get from this is that this is an up and coming fashion entrepreneur. He doesn't yet have his own shop. He runs the business from, I believe, from his home, but he has very good customer retention. So his customers are happy with him, and um, they also refer new clients to him, which is a good sign, which is a really good sign, right? So he's talking about value proposition, and I will need to establish some foundation here. Value proposition is what you promise to your customers before they buy from you and what you deliver to them after they buy from you. So value is, and we have an extensive course on this in the BMG. Value from your own perspective is what you promise to the customer and then what you deliver to the customer. From the perspective of your customer, value is what your customer has to believe before they buy from you. So if you promise something that people don't believe, your value proposition is still not working, right? And value is also what your customers will feel after they buy from you. So I need to notice what is going on here. As the seller, value is what you promise and what you deliver. And this is the reason why I say there's a thin line between a business and a scam. Because the primary frame of a business is that a business promises something, a product, a benefit, some value. You promise something before people buy from you. But what makes a business is that you are able to deliver what you promise after people pay you. You end up delivering that service, you deliver the product, you deliver the value. That's what makes a business a business. When you think about it, a scam is very good on the promise side. If you know of any scam or scammer, they are very good salespeople. And that's because they are very strong on the promise side. What makes a scam is that a scam cannot deliver the value, right? So a business and a scam promise something. But what makes a business is that after you pay the business can deliver. The business can deliver the value and will deliver the value. But a scam cannot because there's nothing behind the promise. The promise is an empty promise. That's what makes it a scam. That's the perspective from the seller. From the buyer has to believe the thing you are promising. And that's why many people fall for scams, because the scammer focuses on making sure that the promise is as believable as possible. And that is a grouse I have with some business owners. If scammers can sell their non-existent product or service with such conviction that people are able to believe the scammer and give the scammer money, how much more you, who has a real product, who has real value behind that promise, but you are either too shy or too modest about what you sell, right? So if scammers can get away with a promise alone, you should be able to get away with more because you can actually deliver on that promise, right? So my point here is that your ability to craft or present a value proposition to your customers is highly dependent on what they believe about you. So there are a couple of things I would love to know, but are not here in your question, which is what kind of clothing do you provide? And the reason I ask this question is that we can't be talking about value proposition if what you sell is very similar to what other people sell. You can't be selling me a product that is widely available on the market, very similar to other products on the market, and you're making me promises that don't make any sense, because I know that you sell the same thing that these other products sell, and I know what those other products can do, but you're here telling me things that your products can do that do not rhyme with what is in the market. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, right? So if in the face of stiff competition, you are very similar to what your competitors sell, your ability to make a value proposition that stands out will be constrained. Maybe your value proposition may be built on service quality or a differentiation about your product. But if you sell something that other people sell, it's going to be very, very hard for you to make a strong point about the kind of value proposition that you have. So even though you've asked this question, I'm going to throw it back to you. What can you promise your customers? What can you promise your customers that sets you apart from all the other fashion designers out there? What can you promise your customers that is unique, very believable, but helps to stand you out? What can you do for your customers that they cannot readily get outside? So if you don't know what this is, then there's no big differentiator between you and all the other businesses. You need to be able to find out what is it that you offer that anybody who buys from you cannot easily get out there. Sometimes for some businesses, it is the service, the quality of service. They are so personable, they are amiable. That is what is different. For some businesses, it's the environment. You come into the environment and the way they touch up these things in terms of the accessibility, the lighting, the air conditioning. For some businesses, it's proximity. So the guy who I buy cooking gas from, that we use in my house, is not too far away from where I live. And there are other people that sell cooking gas. And there are other options. I can actually go to a filling station and fill up my gas. But the question is, what is the value that guy offers, which is different? Which is that he can come to the house and pick up the cylinder and deliver it later. I can drop off the cylinder with him and he can bring it to the house. So he gives me a level of service that I may not be able to get outside, or that I've not yet built up a relationship to get outside. If I go to a filling station, is DIY, is do it yourself. I have to bring out the cylinder myself, and then they will fill it, and I will put it back myself. It's DIY. This guy gives me a personalized service. That's what stands out. Even though what he sells is common, the gas that he sells is common. It's just like the gas that other people sell. There's nothing special about it. Mic check. Mic is good. There's nothing special about it. So you need to find out what makes you different. If not, you are going to struggle to come up with a value proposition. For some people, it's personality. Some people, in fact, I find that for me, that is one of my value pillars. And I know this because I have clients from almost 10 years now. They've not left me. And when you really look at it, what I give them from a technical perspective, I'm sure there are other consultants who can do it for them. But the reason why they haven't left is that I know their history. I've worked with them. I understand. So if they're going to work with somebody else, they have to start from scratch. So now start explaining all those things. But with John-Paul, they don't have to, because I know the history. I know how they started. I know the context. I know how they grew and stuff like that. And then plus the personality. So that's why I always encourage people to infuse their personality in what they sell, because your personality gives you a competitive advantage that is difficult to copy. Nobody can be you. Nobody talks like you. Nobody thinks like you. Nobody speaks like you. So that is an advantage that you bring to the table. So um, I hope I've been able to address this, because the summary of my answer is a question back to you to say, you are thinking about value proposition, but value proposition is something that comes from within. You have to decide what you can promise to your customers that will make them more or less want to do business with you, because that thing that you're promising to your customers is not readily available anywhere, right? That's it. So don't forget, your value proposition is what you promise. And a value proposition is weak if people do not believe the value. People have to believe it. It needs to be believable. And that's why I'm giving you the example of scammers. Scammers make promises that are very believable, that make people bring out their money. But what makes it a scam is that they cannot deliver. So if a business that can actually deliver on their promise is being too modest, then I don't like that. I don't think it helps. I don't think it makes sense. So going on to the last question. Okay, good. This is an interesting one. Good afternoon, Mr. JP. My name is Sata Salam. I own a solar energy company based in Ogun State, Ota. I have a few questions. Please, what is the secret to this pricing stuff? Interesting question. What is the secret to this pricing stuff? How do I set my price right for my products? Each time I set a price and customers buy smoothly, I feel I didn't charge well. And while trying to raise my profit margin, I feel for the customer. Please advise the best pricing structure to follow, when and how to reduce pricing, and how do I set my pricing in a way that all my business expenses will be covered? Good question. The second part of your question is, I will be pitching at an upcoming entrepreneurship festival. Please, I need tips that will attract investors, possible questions, and how to answer them, even when I don't really have the results they are looking for yet. It's a grant of $20,000. Okay. I'll be pitching a solar freezer and solar cold room. Okay, good. Good questions. So the first question is about pricing. How should you set pricing? And the second is about pitching. He's going for an investment pitch. He's going to be pitching to a room of potential investors for a grand prize. So I'll try my best to run through this with the rest of the time that we have. Pricing, very tricky, because in many instances, pricing is psychological. In my own experience, I had to grow into the confidence of being able to price. And but now that I understand it better, I'm hoping that I can share some of the things that I've learned. There are some basic things a price should do for you. So if you're thinking in terms of your pricing, there are some basic things a price should do for you. The first is that a price should cover your costs. There's no point setting a price if after you set that price, you are running at a loss because you did not cover your costs. As simple as this sounds, as basic as it sounds, you will be shocked at how many people set prices without considering their costs. So it's not as if they don't consider their costs, but they don't fully consider their costs, because there are different types of costs. There are direct costs, and those are the costs that people usually see. I want to sell this bottle, right? Most people look at it and say, I bought it for $10. I bought this bottle for $10. So if I sell it for anything above $10, I'm in profit. Not necessarily. The $10 is the direct cost of buying this bottle. That is the direct cost. But there are usually indirect costs of this bottle. Don't forget, this bottle is being sold by a business. That business has a shop, sells, pays rent. That business often runs on diesel. That business pays for electricity. That business pays for internet. That business pays staff. And don't forget, most of that money for covering all these things I just talked about, rent, staff salaries, diesel for the generator, all sorts of things, including the interest on the loan. Most of that money will come from the money you make from selling this thing. So imagine you buy this thing for $10 and you're saying, as long as I sell it for anything above $10, I'm in profit. And you decide to sell it for $12. The $2 you've made on top, would that be enough to cover all the indirect costs I mentioned? The rent, the salaries, and things like that. So that is usually one mistake that businesses make when they are pricing. they don't fully cover or take into consideration all the costs. And usually the angle they miss is the indirect cost, because many businesses have a good idea of their direct costs, what it costs them to buy or make that thing that they're selling. So what really gets them is the indirect cost. So when you are pricing, you need to bring in and consider the indirect cost. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to make all my money for rent, for paying my next rent or buying diesel from selling just this one bottle. That's not what I'm saying. But this bottle should be able to contribute some part to the rent. Some of the money I'll pay as salaries will come from the profit I make from this bottle. So you need to allocate costs, that you need to allocate some of the costs for your salaries, some of the costs for your rent and everything into the price of this bottle. So if I bought this bottle for $10, and by the time I allocate all the other costs for salary, rent, diesel, and all those other things, and that comes to $5, that's the allocated version. My total cost then is not $10 because I bought this thing for $10. My total cost is $15. $10 direct cost, $5 indirect cost. Then my profit is what I put on top of it. So my real cost is $15, not $10. So when people sell, they only look at the direct cost, but they don't consider their indirect cost. How you know how much of your indirect cost you will allocate to a unit of what you sell will depend on how well you understand the performance of your business. If I expect that normally I will sell 100 pieces of this bottle per month, right? I look at my rent, I look at my salaries I'm going to pay, I look at cost of diesel and all those other things. I would then divide it by 100 because I expect to sell 100 of these. And by the time I divide it by 100, I will know how much overhead, how much indirect cost I will allocate to each bottle. And that's how I would more or less come to the conclusion about the cost of this thing. So don't forget, there are direct costs, there are indirect costs. When you've added the direct cost and indirect costs together, it is then on top of that you add your what? Your profits. Your profits may either be pure profits or may still even cover things like your finance costs. Like if you've taken a loan, the interest on that loan may be taken from your profits, or you can include it. The interest on the loan is actually an indirect cost. You need to be able to allocate these things into it. So that's the first consideration of a good price. A good price takes care of the entire cost, both direct and indirect costs. That's one feature of a good price. The second feature of a good price is that it should cover the replacement costs. So for example, right now we're going through a lot of inflation in Nigeria, and I guess it's the same thing happening in several African countries, right? I bought this thing for $10. I bought this thing for $10. And if I sell it right now and I go back to the market, they don't sell this thing for $10 anymore. They now sell it for $15. So the question is, I bought this for $10 when I bought it, right? But right now in the market, if I sell this one and I want to go and replace this stock, they now sell it for 15. What should be the cost of this? Accounting wise, the cost is $10. But in terms of your pricing, the cost cannot be $10. Because of what point is it that you sell this thing, you assume it is $10 and sell it on the basis of $10, but you are not able to replace it when you go back to the market because the price has risen. So you need to consider the replacement cost. What this means is that in setting your pricing, you need to be aware of what is going on in the market in terms of your price survey. You need to be sure that by the time you sell this thing, you would have enough money to replace it when you go back to the market. So the replacement cost, very important. So that's the second feature of a good price. It should be able to take account of the replacement cost. The third important feature of a good price is that your target customer should be able to afford it. What point is it that you set a price, but the person you are trying to sell to cannot afford it, or is unwilling to buy it at that price, right? So if the person you are talking to cannot afford it, then it's not a good price for that customer. Which brings me to my fourth point. My fourth important feature for a good price. Your pricing should be competitive. What does competitive mean? If I have competitors that sell this bottle, I'm selling this bottle at $15. That's the price I'm selling it at. If people can find this bottle in the market for $12 or $10, then I'm not competitive. The same bottle. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. I am selling this exact bottle for $15. But in the market, people can get it for $12 or $10. What it means is that I have priced myself out of the market. I am not as competitive. And as a result, I may not be able to sell because people will see that why would they pay me more for something they can buy for less? So I'm not competitive. Now, there are two things I can change. I can tweak this and make it a different product. I can change the color, I can change the form, I can change the additional features that come from buying with this. I can change this thing such that it will be difficult for anybody to compare this product with another product in the market. If you come and tell me, why are you selling yours for 15, but other people are selling theirs for 12? I can tell you, we are not selling the same thing. This product is actually superior to that other product. And this is how. I now start telling them, this product does this product has this product can give you this, but those other products cannot. The moment I am different from other people in the market, all of a sudden you can no longer compare me. You cannot, because this product is now a different product. You can no longer just compare me to any random person on the market. So that means I may be able to get away with my higher price. But as long as what you sell is the same thing as what other people are selling, you have to think about being competitive. This now creates a problem. All the things I talked about, costs, remember the costs, direct, indirect costs, and the replacement costs. All those are internal issues in your business. AKA, those things are your business. Your customers don't care what your cost is. Your customers care how much they are going to pay you for what they're going to buy, which is the price. So pricing is a delicate balance of balancing getting a price that covers your costs and allows you to make a profit versus a price that is competitive and that makes you attractive to potential customers. That's what pricing is. Pricing is a balancing act between covering your costs and being attractive on the market. That's essentially what you're looking at. Now, this I can now play this another way because there are different kinds of products. And let me give you some examples. There are products that I call commodities, like maybe this bottle now. If you go on the market and there are people who sell this same kind of bottle, the exact same bottle, what it means is that you're in a commodity business. Because I can compare your product to another person's product. And at the end of the day, the only difference will just be the price. The product is the exact same product. The difference is price. If I can compare your product such that the only difference is price, you are in a commodity business. And that puts more pressure on you in terms of setting a competitive price. And that is why sometimes I get people who tell me that they are facing very strong competitive pressure because their competitors are dropping their prices so low that these guys can no longer compete. And they are like, they cannot match their competitors' prices. How? Or why? Their competitor is able, because of maybe they are better at cost management. So for example, if this thing costs $10, that's how much you bought it from your supplier, $10. And then you added your indirect cost, and now you're selling at $15, right? If your competitor can buy this product in bulk from the supplier, the competitor may be able to get this product for cheaper. You are buying at $10, but your competitor may be able to buy it at $8 because they are buying in bulk. So now your pricing is starting from a foundation of 10. Your competitor is starting from a foundation of 8. Already you are disadvantaged because the cost structure does not favor you. It favors your competitor more than it favors you. So the battle for pricing starts from cost if you are in a competitive market. The battle for pricing starts from cost if you are in a competitive market, because people will easily compare you. What you sell is the same as what other people sell. So the only difference is price, and people will buy from the cheaper person, except there is something that makes you stand out. So the battle for price starts from cost. If you are selling something that is very similar, in that kind of market, the person who is able to manage their costs better or is able to get better costs can set prices that would give them an advantage in the market. That's the first type of product and the kind of pricing that comes in. The second type of product is a product that is that is not similar to most things on the market. This is quite common with customized products. So, like in my industry, for example, consulting is like that. A client may ask you to deliver something. It could be a business plan, it could be a financial model, it could be a strategy engagement. No two client jobs are the same. So it is usually customized. So why I say this is that it's very difficult for a customer to compare a product that is not standard or similar to other things on the market, right? So if what you sell cannot be easily compared to anything on the market, it gives you an advantage because you can end up getting away with a higher profit margin and the customer will not know because they don't have any way of comparing you to somebody else. They don't know if you are too expensive or if you are a bargain, right? And that's the advantage you get when you are selling something that cannot be easily compared. Why I'm taking the pains to explain this to you is that Sata, you say you sell solar energy products, right? In the solar energy market, there are all kinds of products, from the batteries to the solar panels to the charge controllers, all the things that you sell, right? But one thing I found is that in this market, all the products are not the same. A customer might come now and tell you they want a solar system in their house, right? And you give them your quote, you give them your price, and they go out there and they compare you with other solar providers, and they tell you, "Oh, Sata, your product is expensive. Your product is expensive." And you ask them, "Expensive how?" They'll tell you, "You gave me a quote for 5 million, but that other person says he can do it for 4 million. The other person says he can do it for 3 million." And you end up telling them, "No, no, no, we're not the same. The products I'm giving you actually have a longer durability than most of all those other things you see on the market." Number one, we are not selling the same thing, except you can find this brand of batteries and all that. We're not selling the same thing. The second thing is the quality of our delivery. You can look at my customer satisfaction and reviews, right? We have a lot of quacks on the market. They'll come and install things for you because they are cheap, but you end up paying for it with higher maintenance costs and repairs. Based on our customer feedback, once we install for you, most times we only come and check on it once a year or something. It's going to last longer. So it all depends on whether you want to use us and pay a good price now, or you want to go cheap and end up paying with rework and complaints and inconvenience over time. With that, you have that customer locked in because you made a solid point for why your price is what it is. You are not exactly what the other people are selling on the market, right? So I guess my point to you is, if you're able to differentiate what you sell from what other people sell on the market, it removes you from that pressure of competition and allows you to set your price, right? The only other thing I've not said here is value is in the eye of the customer. And this typically applies when you sell a product or deliver a service that cannot be easily compared. Sometimes what you benchmark your price against is the cost of the problem the customer is having. Let me give you one example. In one way I would price a service. So for example, I have a client who is trying to raise money. Maybe they're trying to raise $1 million. They're trying to raise $1 million. That is the size of their problem. They want to raise $1 million. If I come in as a consultant to support you, and I'm charging you 1% of that $1 million, which is $10,000, as the cost of the service, you can't say it's expensive. Even though ordinarily $10,000 is a lot of money, ordinarily, right? But to that client, it is nothing compared to the value they will get. It's like they pay $10,000 to solve their problem, and they will get 1 million. That's a trade anybody will make. Pay $10,000, get 1 million. It's nothing, right? But if you focus on the $10,000, the $10,000 looks like a lot of money because you're focusing on the $10,000. But if you compare it to the size of the problem, then you see that it's nothing. How can we apply this to your business, Sata? Imagine a client who wants a solar system installed in their facility, and they need reliability and durability for this solar system. Right now, they are spending almost 30 million on diesel every year. They spend 30 million naira on diesel. And this does not even include the cost of repairing and maintaining the generator. So by the time you look at the cost of this problem to the client, including the cost of diesel is not fixed. The price of diesel may continue to rise. So this is even a problem that can escalate for this client. So you tell the client, the client approaches you and says, how much is your price? I will not expect you to go from the angle of what is my direct cost, what is my indirect cost, and then my profits. If you do that, you'll be underpricing yourself. What you can look at is, what is the cost of this problem to this customer? They spend 30 million on diesel every year. That does not even include the cost of maintaining the generator and all that. And the cost of diesel may change. So you tell them, my quote to you actually is 20 million, right? And what this 20 million means is that we install the solar system for you for 20 million. You are going to enjoy this system for the next 5 years. So it's like you're paying 20 million to cover you for 5 years. But if you continue going with your diesel, you're going to be paying 30 million every year. If you pay 30 million every year for the next 5 years, that's 150 million. So if you don't go with my quote, you pay 150 million on this. You spend 150 million on diesel. But if you go with my quote, you only spend 20 million and you are able to save the rest of the money. Now, imagine that if you quoted based on cost, my cost is 5 million, my indirect cost is 2 million, then my profit is another 2 million. Imagine you are going to quote 9 million for that job and still be happy that this is a good price. 9 million is a good price. But if you compare it to the problem of the client, you can price 2 times the price you wanted to price now, because you are pricing it against the cost of the customer's problem. So I'm giving you this broad spread so that you know that pricing, like I said, is psychological. And I hope you now understand why. You can price what you sell based on what your competitors are selling. And that's because what you sell is very similar. You can easily be compared. But if you cannot easily be compared, you can now price based on the value to the customer, because value lies in the eye of the customer. How can you determine value? One way is, what is the cost of the problem this customer wants me to fix? What is that problem costing them? And then based on that cost, you can now set your price. And even though your price may seem very, very high to you, to the customer you're presenting it to, it's like a lifesaver. It's like you're saving them a lot of money. So the moment I realized this thing, it saved me a lot. One thing is, I stopped feeling guilty, because pricing, when you start, pricing is one of those things that will make you feel guilty. You're going to battle a lot of internal demons, like maybe I'm greedy. This thing ordinarily should cost $1,000. Why are you charging $5,000 for it? Is that not greed? Is that not greed? But just like I explained to you, if normally I would charge 1,000 for this, and now I'm charging 5,000 for this, but it is solving $100,000 problem for my client. My client is more than happy to pay me that money. You see what's going on here? It's all relative. It's all psychological. My client will be more than happy to pay me $5,000 because I'm helping them solve a problem that is far bigger than that $5,000. But here am I inside of me feeling like I'm greedy, that ordinarily this thing should cost 1,000. Why am I charging 5,000 for it? So if you don't understand these principles of pricing, you may end up sabotaging yourself, because you might be thinking, oh, my pricing is too high. Right? My pricing is so high. So it all depends on the context. It all depends on what you sell. It all depends on who you are selling to. It all depends on what other people who are in your industry, your competitors, are charging. Those are the things that are going to determine your price. But remember, at the minimum, your pricing should cover your costs, and your pricing should cover your replacement costs. Those are the principles that I want you to keep in mind. So let me address your next question. You are going for a pitch. You'll be speaking to potential investors, and you want to pitch a solar freezer and solar cold room, right? So what I see here is you have the makings of a fantastic pitch, because the way a pitch goes is, you describe the opportunity. Every pitch is built on an opportunity. Investors are looking to make money. And how would they make money? They will make money by investing in an opportunity. So you need to present yourself as an opportunity, because it is the opportunity that will attract the investor. But then don't be carried away by that word opportunity, because everybody claims everything is an opportunity. There are a couple of ingredients that an opportunity should have. Essentially, there are three of them. The first ingredient of an opportunity is a gap or need or problem, something that exists in the market that is making people feel pain, frustration, all sorts of things. But clearly, there is a gap in the market. In your case, you sell solar, you want to pitch a solar freezer or solar fridge. The gap in the market is that almost half of the country, almost half of the population of Nigeria, does not have access to reliable and constant power supply. That's the problem. And what does this mean? What it means is that people suffer losses. They can't plan, they can't buy produce like from the markets. They cannot store food for extended periods of time, because most times they cannot depend on reliable power supply. So this is costing families, because families always have to spend money. Families incur losses because sometimes they buy food, put it in the fridge or freezer, and it goes bad because there is no regular power supply. So that is a problem. That clearly is a gap. And sometimes you back this with numbers. By the time you do the research, you find out the exact numbers. And to be more specific, like the cold rooms you're talking about, open air markets, the people who sell tomatoes, vegetables, and all that, many of them are under pressure because their goods can go bad, their goods can spoil, and that will mean losses for them. And the reason why these goods spoil is that if they don't quickly sell off their tomatoes and their vegetables, they don't have access to cold storage. They don't have access to cooling systems that will allow them sell off, that will allow them store their vegetables and sell off. So you can put an analogy and say the average tomato seller has to sell off their tomatoes within 2 to 4 days. If not, they start to incur losses. Right? So that is the state of the problem right now. So one leg of an opportunity is a problem. The second leg of an opportunity is a solution. You can't just claim that there's a big opportunity out there, investors should give you money. Do you have the solution? Because the same way you're seeing the opportunity, the gap in the market, is the same way thousands of other smart people are seeing the gap. So your unique angle is you have a solution. And then that's where you talk about your solar freezer. You say, I have this device, I have this solar freezer that can extend the storage time for farm produce, vegetables, and all these other things. The normal shelf life for these items is 2 to 5 days. But with my solar fridge, these things can last up to 2 weeks. Now you're getting people's attention because you've now shown us that you have a solution to that problem. Remember, an opportunity has 3 legs. The first is a problem or a need or a gap. The second is a solution. And now you're talking about the solution. I have this solar freezer. I have this thing I've developed that actually can do this thing. The third leg of an opportunity is proof. You may have a solution, but that doesn't mean that people will be willing to buy it to solve that problem. I'm sure you know there's this common analogy that I give. I often say that light bulbs die all the time. Light bulbs, you can buy a light bulb and it will die. What if there is a bulb you can buy that will never die? Will people pay for it? On the surface, it looks like people might be willing to buy a bulb that never dies, that a bulb that can last 1,000 years. But what if I told you that bulb is $10,000 per bulb? And then you start see people like, no problem, I'll just keep buying my normal regular bulbs. So this is a case of there's a problem, yes. You have a solution, yes. But the solution doesn't match because people are unwilling to pay for it. So that's where you need the proof. You need to prove that you need to show evidence that people are actually open to buying your product or have already bought your product because they see it as a solution to that problem. So many times people talk about their solution because that's what they are interested in. That's what they are passionate about. But the problem is that your solution is a bias. Your solution is an assumption. The person that will decide if that solution is really a solution is the market, is the person who has that need, who is going through that problem, who is facing that gap. It's only the market that will decide if your solution is really a solution. Until then, it's just an assumption. So that's why the third leg of an opportunity is that you need to show proof that people are actually buying this thing, or they've signaled strong interest to pay for it because they see it as a solution to their problems. So these are the three legs of an opportunity: a gap in the market, problem in the market, need, a solution that can solve that problem, and proof that the market has accepted that solution and they voted with their money. They are interested in buying that solution. So the moment you present this thing with your solar freezer, right, you're now talking about, in terms of the opportunity, that one is very, very clear. Even to spice up the opportunity will be a case of, when you're talking about the problem, you don't just state that this is a problem now, but you also mention that with the growth rate of Nigeria, it's expected that the power poverty, the number of people who don't have access to reliable power supply to be able to refrigerate items or store perishable items would grow. So what you are saying, what you are telling the investors practically, is that this is not just a big opportunity now. This is an opportunity that we expect will continue to grow. So it's not just a big opportunity now, it's an opportunity that will continue to grow, because there are some opportunities that look big now, but they are going to shrink.